Well, good morning, church. Can we give the worship team a big round of applause? I don't know about you, but that just got me real fired up for whatever's about to happen. So good morning. If I don't know you, my name is Avery Taylor. I'm the students pastor here, so I get to hang out with all of our teenagers, which for some of you sounds real scary, but it is the biggest joy of my life. If you need a Bible, would you raise your hand? We have ushers here that will bring you a Bible. You're welcome to keep this. You can leave it in your seat. You can give it away to a friend, whatever you'd like to do with it, but these are for you if you would like. And I've been told by pretty much every single male in the room, I have to say like, Happy Super Bowl Sunday or something like that. I was told if I didn't acknowledge Super Bowl, like I needed to acknowledge the Super Bowl. So there's your blanket statement, Happy Super Bowl. I hope both teams win, both teams have fun. That's all I care about. So today we're gonna be in James. And if you've been with us this whole past month and a half-ish, we've had different guest teachers. Our teaching team has been phenomenal. If you've loved our guest teachers, give them a hand as well. Listen, this is not over. Next week, my favorite generations pastor, Julie Washington, is going to be closing the series, and it's going to be a blast. So today we're going to be in James 5, if you want to go ahead and turn there. So if I asked you today, how's your season of waiting going? Most of us wouldn't answer with, oh my gosh, I love waiting. This is so much fun. I'm having the joy, a time of my life. No, a lot of us would answer with things like, I'm tired, or I'm frustrated, or I'm just real anxious about it, or I'm just done with it all. Take me out of this game, like I don't want to play. And I don't know about you, but I'm really great at faith as long as God sticks to my timeline. I know a lot of us in the room, I got a little chuckle from that. We can agree, right? We're so good at trusting God if God does what we want for our lives. We'll trust God with a diagnosis, but then we want the results like in a week. We'll trust God with our kids, but then we want however they're acting to change within 24 hours. We'll serve faithfully, but then want a breakthrough within a month. And James is writing to believers who are tired. They're hurting, they're frustrated, and they're just tempted to give up. If you remember at the beginning of January, I know, feels like 70 years ago, we started in James 1. And James 1:1 gives us a little context about what the people are going through that he's talking to. It says in James 1:1, to the 12 tribes scattered among the nations. Scattered among the nations. See, these people have been displaced. They've lost everything. But even through that, they've been praying, they've been obeying, they've been faithful to God, and nothing seems to have changed. And James isn't giving them a shortcut, okay? He's giving them a perspective. He's giving them a picture, something that they're familiar with. A farmer standing in a muddy field, just staring at dirt. Let's pray. God, I thank you for every single person that's walked through this room today. God, I know you've had everybody here for a reason, so just open their hearts, open their minds to what you have for them. Lord, rid me of my own words, Lord. Make them yours, God, not my own. Just speak clearly. Help us to learn how to wait well. In Jesus' name, amen. So if nothing else in this series, the one thing we've learned about James is that he's not your typical sugar-coating encourager, okay? He is super straightforward, this is it type of guy. And while by the time we get to chapter 5, which is what we're going to be in today, he doesn't change it up. The first 4 chapters aren't so clear, this is how it is, but I'll kind of sugarcoat things for chapter 5. No, he is this is how it's going to be, this is what you need to know. And so today we're asking one question: how do we wait well in a culture that doesn't wait well? Or quite frankly, that likes to wait at all. So let's jump into it. James 5:7-8. Therefore, brothers and sisters, be patient until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth and is patient with it until it receives the early and the late rains. You also must be patient. Strengthen your hearts because the Lord's coming is near. Let's pause there. So the majority of these people that James is speaking to are very acquainted with the agricultural lifestyle, okay? That's what they knew. So he knew that they would know kind of this comparison he's talking about with this farmer. And we're going to land here a lot throughout this message and come back to what this farmer is really trying to say. Okay, so he chooses this very intentionally so that people can know exactly what he's talking about. And he's hoping that if he can put it on their level, that they'll actually get it. They'll get what he's saying. Prior to this message, I would consider my knowledge of farming mediocre. And so I figured if I was going to stand up here and tell y'all about farming, I should look into farming. And so I did. I looked into farming, and I learned two pretty valuable things. The first being, I really don't know as much about farming as I thought I did. The second is the majority of the outcomes of what a farmer does is completely out of their control. The farmer can plant the seeds, but then the outcome can come in so many ways. Okay, too much rain ruins the crop. Too little kills it. A late frost, the crop dies. Early heat, the harvest shrinks. Okay, so it's really out there in the open. And for someone that likes control like I do, and I think a lot of you can agree with me, this is not a profession I would ever want to be in, okay? There is very little you can do to control the outcome. The farmer can't make the seed open. You see, the maturity and the grounding happens underneath the ground without him. He can plow the field, he can put the seed in, but then the rest is not up to him. Which brings me to our first counterfeit. If you've been with us the past few weeks, all of our teachers have been kind of taking these counterfeits, the things culture says we should be doing, and then how James comes in and says, no, that's not it, okay? This is what the Lord is calling of us. So our first counterfeit is we live in a culture that says, control everything you can. You see, this is where James kind of moves away from being a lesson on farming and puts it more into a mirror of our lives, okay? He sees that his people, even then, are trying to control every little aspect of their lives because they're trying to hold on to something. And I think this is what we do too. Control is typically the air that we breathe in our culture. We are always trying to figure out what we can change, what we can do, because if we can just do that, then everything is going to be fine. We don't have to surrender anything to the Lord if we're controlling it all. But control gives the illusion of certainty. If I can manage it, I don't have to trust God with it. If I can predict it, I don't have to surrender it. But the truth is, most of us don't struggle with obedience. We struggle with the surrender of it. Surrendering a tight grip of our timeline, our control. James says, trust God with everything. The word everything truly means everything, church. It is not, I'll trust him with this part of my life, or I'll give him this little bit. It is every aspect of every minute of your day. When God controls the process instead of us, waiting isn't optional. It's just required. The farmer can't make it rain. The farmer can't rush the rain. He can't force the growth. He just keeps showing up. He plows the empty dirt. There's no crops, no proof, no immediate gratification, which is so ingrained in our culture today. He just keeps showing up. And why? Because he knows the good is coming. I tell our students this all the time, that if you know God is good, you don't have to wonder if he's going to come through for you. You don't have to wonder if God is going to be good in your life because you know it. We just sang it, good plans. He has good plans for our life. And if you truly know that, you don't have to question it. Some of you are praying for things that just haven't changed. Some of you might be praying for things for years or months or days. I'm so sorry. That was my earring. We're just going to keep moving forward. Okay. Didn't know where that came from. Really, just moving on. So James says, don't quit in the waiting. God is working underground. So if you've been praying for things for days, for weeks, for months, for years, no matter what the timeline is, this is where people tend to break. They start to give up because they feel like nothing is changing. But that's where God is really doing the work. Faith is about doing your part and trusting God with the rest. So when you're praying for your kids, for your marriage, for your life, for your calling, you prepare the soil, you plant faithfully, you protect what's growing, but only God can do the rain. Only God can make the weather change. Only God can produce the growth. Second thing culture says, waiting means you're losing or behind. And I'm not even going to pretend that this point did not do me in. I wrote this one down, closed my laptop, and took a nap. Like, I am not even joking. Because when you start paying attention, you realize how brutal the scoreboard of our world really is. It's exhausting. Our culture keeps whispering, sometimes even screaming at you, if you don't have it by now, you've probably missed it. And that's unfortunate. I kind of made a list, so bear with me here, of things that I feel like a lot of the time our culture screams at it. If you don't have the degree, the job, the salary, the spouse, the kids, the house, the nice car in the driveway, by whatever age you think you're supposed to, then congratulations, the world thinks you've already failed, which is so encouraging. But God doesn't think that, okay? God's timeline is different than what the world feels. And even if you're on your way, everybody always has an opinion about something, right? If you're engaged, back in school, healing, saving, back on track or what you think it is, you're still flooded with advice from the world on how to hurry up, how to get from point A to point B to point C, how to get to the end of whatever process it is that you're working on faster. Everyone has something to say about skipping the waiting or speeding it up because that's what's so ingrained in us. But let's bring it back to the farmer. Farmers don't measure success daily. They measure it seasonally. You don't judge a field in the dead of winter. You judge it in the springtime. So if your life feels like the dead of winter, bare ground, no fruit, no evidence of what God's doing in your life, it doesn't mean you're behind. It means God's doing his deepest work where no one can see. You're not stuck. You're simply being formed. James says waiting is where God is working. James 5:10, brothers and sisters, take the prophets who spoke in the Lord's name as an example of suffering and patience. See, we count as blessed those who have endured. You see that word in the middle? Patience. We are really bad at that, church. Just saying. Culture tells us, get it now, hustle harder, don't stop until you win. And like the list I said before, that's exhausting. That is not the way I want to live my life, and I'm sure you don't either. I looked up the actual definition of patience, and it was very telling to me, and it really makes sense why a lot of us don't have it. So the definition of patience is the capacity to accept or tolerate delay. I don't think we tolerate it, much less accept it. What is your capacity to accept or tolerate delay? It has been ingrained in us to not accept any delay in our schedule. When you're sitting in traffic, I'm sure none of you are sitting there being like, this is so fun. It's going to take me longer to get to where I need to go. Or if you're at the grocery store and there's several long lines, you're probably the one being like, that one over there will probably go quicker, and you move your cart over. Or if you're at a restaurant and you go up to the host stand and the host is like, it'll be like 25, 30-minute wait. You're like, nope, not doing it. We're going somewhere else that can get me food faster. Y'all, 25 to 30 minutes isn't that long of a time. I hope you know that. But that's just how our culture is. We think if there's any delay, we're behind. If we're waiting around, nothing is getting done. But the farmer's not behind schedule. He's patient. He accepts that delays are part of the process. He's on God's schedule. Waiting is a part of the process for us too. It's a part of God's good plan for our lives. It's inevitable. I can bet probably every single person in this room is either in a waiting season or knows someone in a waiting season. That is just how life is. So when you know to trust God for his good plans, you're gonna know you're going to go through a waiting season. And oftentimes God's schedule doesn't make any sense to us. In fact, for me, at least my life, I'd say 99% of the time, God's plan doesn't make sense. But that doesn't mean it's not so good. It doesn't mean he's not working still in the waiting. Nothing seems to change when the seeds are under soil, until suddenly everything does. Growth is happening underground long before it's visible, long before it makes any sense to the farmer. He does not, well, I guess if you're a farmer, you do know exactly kind of what's happening, but you can't see what's happening on the surface. But you just have to trust that what you're doing is growing. You may feel behind because nothing looks different yet, but be patient because God is doing his deepest work where no one can see it. I learned a lot about patience when I was getting my driver's license. To any of my students in the room, don't do what I'm about to tell you I did when I was getting my license, okay? So I treated the whole thing like a checklist. I was so excited to have that new freedom you get when you're 16. And so I was just trying to go down the list and do everything in driving school as fast as I possibly could. The minimum hours, checked that off real quick. Parallel parking, kind of mostly checked that off. Regular parking, also kind of checked that off. I've gotten significantly better, I will say that. Don't ask my closest friends, they would say I'm not better. But I wasn't trying to learn. I was just trying to finish. I rushed through the process because I wanted that end. I wanted that freedom that it was going to give me. So the morning of my driver's test comes, okay? I'm 16. I am ready, okay? It is like 7 a.m. We pull up to the DMV. I get in a car with this random man I just met that does this for a living. God bless his soul because I could never. And he's like, okay, let's get in the car. So I'm like, okay, yes, I'm ready. I've got this. And so I get in the car. My first mistake, just pure instinct, I got in the passenger seat of the car. Right. And the guy kind of opens the driver door and he goes, you have to be over here to drive. And I was like, okay, right, yes, you're good. And at this point, then nerves start hitting me, okay? The adrenaline wears off, and that is just when I'm like, oh no, okay, already one mistake. This guy already hates me. He hates his life right now. Like, he's having to just drive 16-year-olds all the time. Like, that's got to be terrifying. So I get out of the car, and I move over to the driver's seat, and I do like all the little checklist things, like the mirror or something, or I don't even remember anymore. Seatbelt, that is something I still do every day. But all those little things you do before you have to like drive out. And so he's over there and he's writing on his little clipboard, and I'm just getting more and more nervous. And at this point, I'm taking my driver's test in Oklahoma because this is where my family lived. And it was springtime. So springtime, if you don't know, in Oklahoma, it's Tornado Alley. It is windy. And it is very known for these big gusts of wind, like aggressive gusts of wind that just like come out of nowhere, okay? So we pull out of the parking lot, and I'm going maybe like, I don't know, 20 to 30 miles per hour. We're in a residential area, and we're going. And this neighborhood that I'm unfamiliar with happened to be trash day. So all of these trash cans are lining this already pretty narrow road. And like I said, Tornado Alley, it's windy. So I'm driving around, and all of a sudden, the car goes whoop, and the wind goes whoosh, and trash cans start flying around the road like obstacles in a video game. I felt like I was on Mario Kart trying to dodge them. And here's the thing, if I would have paid attention to the defensive driving part of this course, I would have known, hey, maybe don't keep going into these trash cans. Maybe let's tap the brakes a second, okay? Let's pause, let's wait till they clear. But no, I didn't pay attention to that. I rushed through it, and so I'm driving, trash can, right there. And so finally I'm like, okay. And I was like, we'll just ignore that. I'll look over the guy, he's writing. I was like, okay. And so I keep going, trash can again. And I was like, okay, that's two. Maybe I should do something about this. And so I stop, I tap the brakes, and I look over at him. And he's writing, and I'm still looking, and I'm stopped in the middle of the road, still a trash can right in front of me. And he just goes, proceed. And in my head, my little 16-year-old brain, I was like, that cannot be right. Like, this man should revoke any privilege I ever have for the rest of my life on driving. But he did not. He so graciously said, actually kind of scary, proceed. And so I do. I proceed out of the neighborhood. I don't hit any more trash cans in this neighborhood. We finally get back to the parking lot where it's safe, trash can free. And I'm driving, and I'm having to do the parking part. And like I said, really did not pay attention to any part of this driving course, okay, for the months I'd been doing it. So we have these two cones, and I'm like inching forward and then inching back, trying to parallel park. And that whole process goes. I finally figure it out. I do the regular parking, and the test is complete. Barely survived it, but I did indeed pass the test that day. I know the groans in the room really surprised me too, but I took it. I did not argue with that man. He was like, you passed, but you could tell there was some hesitancy. And looking back, I realized if I had just slowed down, if I had been patient, I wouldn't have nearly failed. I would not have been so anxious about this process because I would have known what to do. I was so focused on getting through the process that I missed what the process was trying to teach me. And that's exactly how we treat waiting on God a lot of the time. We check boxes, we rush the obedience, we want the outcome, but not the formation. But God works in that process. He works in that quiet, silent middle ground that a lot of us just don't want to sit in. If I had slowed down, I would have learned a lot more. If I had been patient, I would have been so prepared. Trash cans would have been avoided at all costs if I would have just paid attention. And in the same way, when we rush God's timing, we often miss what he's trying to teach us. Are you paying attention to what God is trying to teach you in the waiting? Or are you trying to check all the boxes of your plan for your life? Church, waiting isn't wasted time. It's where God builds wisdom, endurance, and trust. The third thing culture says is this: if it's hard, quit and start something new. We live in a culture that treats discomfort as danger. And unfortunately, my generation has gotten a really bad reputation for this. If the job is hard, just leave it. If the relationship is hard, just move on. If the church disappoints you, just go find another one. There's plenty. Difficulty is seen as a sign you made the wrong choice, that you missed what God had planned for you, that something must be better elsewhere. But here's the thing, church, you can't miss what God has for you. That's impossible. That's one thing God will not let you do. So quitting gets rebranded nowadays as self-care. Starting kind of gets rebranded as growth. I know I'm part of this generation that started this, but I don't agree with it, just putting that out there. But because of this, endurance gets labeled as settling. Quitting feels wise because quitting promises that immediate relief. We're so bad at needing that immediate gratification, that immediate relief, the here and now. It ends the tension when you're able to just quit and start over. It stops the pain, but most importantly, it gives you that sense of false control back. Endurance, on the other hand, feels slow. It feels costly. It asks you to stay when leaving would be so much easier. And that's why culture celebrates quick exits so much and rarely honors long faithfulness. And if any of this hits a nerve, don't email me, don't take it up with me. It's the Lord, just saying. It's what James is saying. But it does. It gets us because we are so in what the world says to do. I know I was so convicted in this message because it is so much easier for us to just say, you know what? I'm going to abandon that. It was too hard. I didn't like it. There's got to be something easier. There's got to be something better. But God says, wait Endurance is the key to waiting. James says, endurance is not weakness, it's worship. James 5:11, you have heard of Job's endurance and have seen the outcome that the Lord brought about. The Lord is compassionate and merciful. If you don't know a lot about Job, he had a pretty rough life. He lost his family, he lost his health, he lost his friends, his reputation. Just everything was knocking this guy down. And the book of Job doesn't show us that he had it all figured out, that he never questioned God. It shows us that he persevered while confused. He persevered while grieving, while hurting, while it's still hard. And yet James is saying here in verse 11, the story isn't even about Job. It doesn't say, look how strong Job was. It says, look how compassionate our God is. It's not about Job. It's about God's compassion that he has for us in the waiting. We have the story of Job because it's what it proves to us. God wasn't punishing him. He was shaping him. He didn't want to waste Job's hardship. And he isn't going to waste yours either. You are not the one person in this room that God is looking at you being like, their hardship, gonna waste that one. No, that doesn't apply to you. I'm sorry to say, you're not that special that you're the exception to God wasting your hardship. No. A farmer doesn't rip out seeds because the field looks dead. He doesn't abandon the crop when the rain delays. He stays. He tends to it. He takes care of it still. He does what he can to make it happen. Because harvest only comes to those who endure it. Harvest doesn't come to the people that just plant it and walk away and hope when they come back in a week, it's all good, it's grown, here we go. No, it's the people that stay steadfast in the waiting that get the harvest. Once you understand God is faithful to finish what he starts, it changes how you wait. Paul gives us this in Galatians 6:9. Let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. If we do not give up, friends, that's so vital. That's the key. If you give up, what's God supposed to do when you give up? You've got to stay steadfast to the plan. James and Paul are saying the same thing. Harvest is promised, but the timing is not. God says, I will have good plans for your life, like we just sang, and we're going to sing again. But he doesn't say, I'm going to have good plans for your life right this second, right when you ask for it. He doesn't promise us a timeline. He just promises that it's going to be good. So what do we take from this? What have we learned on how to wait well? I'm going to invite the band back up. I have 3 things for us to take on how to wait well in this culture that does it so not well. The first is trust God with everything. Not part of your life, not some of your prayers, but every single thing. Every single aspect of your whole entire life. Second is this, be patient. Have the capacity to not just tolerate delay, but to embrace it. It's a scary confession to pray, but so powerful of God, I welcome the waiting in. I will and I am waiting patiently for you to come through. Third is this, wait actively. Waiting isn't passive. You don't just sit around waiting for the Lord to come through in your life. You have to act in the waiting. Pray like the Lord is going to come through for your life today. Worship like the Lord already did come through in your life. And remember who God is, because when you know who God is, we declare it in here all the time. He's a way maker. He's a promise keeper. He is good and he is faithful to finish what he has started, church. When you know that and you truly believe it, you don't have to wonder if he's going to come through in your season of waiting. So we're going to put this into action today. The altar's open, and we're going to go back into good plans. And there's a line in the song that says, if I know my Father has good plans. And I want this to be an invitation for you to declare that. I have so many people in my life that I am praying for breakthrough for. It has been a waiting season, or there's things in my life, and I know there's things in yours too. Whether it's a relationship that needs to be mended, or healing that needs to happen, or whatever your waiting season feels like it, I want this to be a time where you can come lay this at the altar and declare that in the waiting, God is still good. So Brian and his team are going to lead us through this song. The altar is wide open, and I want you to come worship and pray in the waiting.